You're listening to Electrician Live with your host, Paul Abernathy. Well, hello, everybody. Stay tuned. Again, my mistake. For those that joined us, I'm just trying to update the stream. Let me bring you to me. And you should see audio and you should hear me now. My doing, definitely, I have a lot of stuff that was going on in the background. So I did not have my settings set all the way right. That is all my doing. Nobody else but me. I apologize for that application of my error. And so for those that are listening over on the stream, the new stream is updated and it should be live. Again, I apologize for that. My mistake. It happens. It's one of those things where I didn't anticipate the errors. So, welcome to the show. You should be able to hear me now. If we lost some people because of it going on and off, I apologize. I got it back as soon as I could. Ultimately, it was, should say, user error. And when, at the end of the day, when it's me doing it, only me, and there you go, things like that happen. So welcome to Electrician Live again so that you can hear me now. My name is Paul Abernathy. We come to you every week where we talk to you about all things electrically related here on Electrician Live. What you didn't hear from my previous boo-boo in the broadcast was one setting that I had off, and I had it turned off because I was doing some videos during the day, and I forgot that I left that setting off. Electrician Live is a podcast that comes every week, and it's broadcast on electricianlive.com, where it is right now based on the podcast. But you can also watch the live feed if you want to go over to youtube.com/Master the NEC. A lot of things we've got coming up in the future is we're going to be having some special guests that come on, and those special guests will have a specialty in things like leadership, training, finance, building your business type of approach, the mental approach, mental aspect. But we'll also have, hopefully, the folks from iTools on here. I'm hoping to have them on here. And we'll also have a special guest that does nothing but bidding and estimating. That's all they do. And they're going to be on there for that as well. So we're going to have them as a special guest as well to the show in the future as well. We have a whole new setup that's coming, and that's going to give us a lot more reach for the show. And hopefully we'll have a nice little checklist so that we can't forget to turn on a button. Again, I keep making those mistakes. Again, I apologize for that. But welcome to the show. And so tonight's show is a topic that kind of takes it back at me as an electrical contractor back many years in a sense of my company started really growing, and I started, and I've done this with other people as well. The company starts really growing, and you get a hold of a good contractor, and you have that contractor, and you start getting a lot of business, and then you think, well, that's it. I've got this business, and it's growing, and that's all I need. In reality is it's not all that you need. In the sense of a business, we're going to look at some concepts where I talk about not putting all your eggs in the same basket. Okay. Now, what that means is that basically and you know what? And one thing I notice, and y'all probably notice it, is that I literally, again, look like I'm wearing lipstick. For those that are over in the stream, you know, you can look at me and see what it looks like. But it's wow, I'm gonna have to lighten that up a bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm so easily distracted. So those that are listening over on Electrician Live, obviously you can listen to the podcast. It's a podcast by itself. Or you can come watch us in the video stream, which is over on our YouTube channel. But you can also watch it from electricianlive.com as well. And so today's, again, episode is about putting all your eggs in a single basket and how that can cause an issue with the growth of your company. And so I'll tell you a story, but every contractor should think about these things as far as once you start getting work, you're really going after the marketing, and hopefully you watched our video or our Electrician Live series on the guerrilla marketing, really low cost marketing ideas. And you come up with ideas, you start to grow your business, and you latch on to a contractor, a general contractor that's throwing you a lot of business. Okay, and they're throwing you this business, and you're starting to grow your business. And then what happens is times get lean, people start asking for bidding. It used to be, and I remember back, I had a contractor, general, that I did work for, and I did all of their work. And what would happen is when something would go wrong in one of their customers, I would be there to service it, whether it was day or night. It didn't really matter at any given time. And what happened is you get to a point where they need to worry about the bottom line. And so it used to be you'd go do work for somebody and you'd do the work, and then you wouldn't really even submit a bid. You just do the work. And then they would trust you, and you'd give the price, and they know that you're very, very trustworthy in your price. Well, there becomes a time, and for me, it was in 2007. For other people, it becomes a time where they say, you know what, I need to start getting bids from other people. And they're getting bids from other contractors, electrical contractors, and now they're scrutinizing this bid where before you were doing all their work. And so that kind of happened in my business, and it happened to a couple examples that I'll give you today on some electrical contractors that this happened to. And I learned early on that if that contractor stopped picking me, was that the contractor that was hanging my hat on? Was I hiring employees based on the work that I was getting from that general contractor? Did I diversify out into other aspects of my work? And that was the issue that we had to concern ourselves with. Had I put all my eggs in one basket, and so when that general contractor decided he did not want to give me all the business, what happened at that point is all of a sudden my business would tank. So I learned early on not to put all my eggs in the one basket. So, and that happened to me when it hit me like a brick back in 2007, 2008 as a contractor. I was like, I'm doing all the work for this one contractor. What happens if that contractor decided, and they want more bids? They're not going to let you get all the work. Then what happens? Well, that's what happened to me, and I had to adjust. And so many people put all their eggs in one basket. They start to grow. They latch on, especially an electrical contractor that's starting out. They'll latch on to a general contractor, and they start to get all their work. That general contractor starts to get booming, and then all of a sudden you're just swamped, and you hire people, and you're doing all their work. And the next thing you know, again, times hit, or something happens to that contractor, and now your income stops, or it slows really down. So I talk to people about that, in dating back, probably we'll talk about the first, and I'll give you some examples, but I'll talk about the first contractor that I worked with. And this was back probably in maybe 2012 or 2013. It was a young electrical contractor who was really starting to grow the company. It was really, really growing. It's back in Virginia. And they were doing this general contractor, nothing but their work. And that general contractor was booming. So they were doing multifamilies. He was hiring. They were doing big apartment complexes, all this type of stuff. And he was really dedicated 100% to that work. And he came to me and he said, Paul, I'm doing so great. I'm doing wonderful. And I'm like, that is awesome. That's the goal, right? That's what we're trying to achieve. And I told him, I said, well, let me ask you a question. What happens if that general contractor gets sour with you, or goes out of business, or, starts pulling other bids? And he said, no, we do all his work. We do all of his work. We're the only one that will ever do his work. I said, I'm just asking you, what if? And he got to thinking about it. And so he said, well, what are you talking about, Paul? And that's when I said to him, I said, well, you need to diversify into, or not put all your eggs in one basket. He said, explain. I said, do you do service work? He says, I don't have a lot of time for service work because we're doing all this guy's work. I said, okay, but you need to think about expanding your opportunity. And so in his case, I said, what do you like to do? He said, well, service work. And I love service work. Service work, some people don't like it for the pricing aspect of it, but I love service work. And, you know, the ability to get in and do it and get out scenario, I like. Okay. I like that aspect of it. Very quick turnover, get in, get out, and done. And pay me. I said, he says, I like that kind of work. I said, okay, you like service work. All right, what else? I said, well, he said, I don't know. I said, well, do you do generators? He said, no, I don't really do generators. I'm like, well, you should think about doing generators. Contact, whether it's Kohler or Generac or somebody, see if they have a dealer in the area. If not, if the area is large enough, and of course this area was large, I said you might be able to get a dealership. And then it's a matter of how many generators you buy and that type of thing. He said, yeah, are they difficult? No. He's done some generators. They're not difficult at all. Residential generators are you know, they're still at an affordable, I guess, value for those. And so he contacted a generator provider. In fact, it was Generac. And he was able to obtain a dealership. Now, slowly over time, he was trying to build that up. And so he was fitting a truck out, single truck, out as a service truck so that he could have a guy that's dedicated to that. But he could also help him during his normal work that they're doing for this general contractor. But he could still have the aspect where he could have this guy do some work. So he did that. And then he started his generator dealership with them. And the next thing you know, he had a couple, Generac installs. Next thing you know, couple more, did a couple of those garden shows. And next thing you know, he's booming. And it came at the perfect time because guess what happened? The general contractor started cutting it back and saying, well, I need to start getting bids, or you got to drop your price. And he started holding him hostage to their relationship. And so what happened in that scenario is he looked at it and he said, well, I'm making as much doing service now, and I'm making as much doing the generators, that I'm now diversified. What did I say? Diversified into these different areas, right? And he said, so if one slows down, the other picks me up. And so I said, okay, well, there you go. There's your two, but don't stop there. That's just, that's branching you out. You can still look for other contractors, general contractors, and work it out, but don't put everything in this one company that was booming. And a good thing he did, because now that company started having problems and it would have affected his bottom line. So his company, which is a steady upward growth, and then all of a sudden that company started having issues. And those issues slowed down their work, their buildings, started having financial problems, and that would have affected him. But he decided to, again, not put all his eggs in one basket and rely on just one contractor that was doing a lot of work. It was keeping him busy, but he needed to think about the bigger picture. So that's what he did. So right now, currently, he does more work in generators, and the work that he does for the service part of his business also brought in new general contractors who knew that he could service something if something was wrong with one of the houses they built in a subdivision. He would be there. So he helped build these relationships. Okay, so he divested himself into other things instead of being so locked into that one contractor. So when we do that, so that was that contractor, and now he's doing amazingly well. He's hired guys. He has a service division, generator division, still does his work. To this day, he does no work, I believe, for that original general contractor. But because of these other relationships, he has other general contractors now that he does work for. So again, you can have a relationship with somebody, and it's nice if you can have that relationship with a general contractor, a builder. But just remember in the back of your mind that that relationship is a working relationship, and at some point that could go away. And you want to be basically diverse in what you do. Okay, so some of the areas that we talk about diversity in the areas, obviously service work. There is so much money in service work. These houses are aging. Okay, now you're a commercial guy, that's fine. There's a lot of strip malls and things like that, but even the guy that does commercial needs to think about putting a service truck on the road. Now, pricing scares a lot of people. Whether you're doing flat rate pricing or per the hour, time and material, that scares people. We're going to have a guy on here in a couple weeks, hopefully, that can talk about all that. But at the end of the day, there's flat rate pricing models that are out there that you can utilize as well. But again, service work. Now, you might say, yeah, I do service work, but do you target service work? In other words, do you make that a priority of your company? If you're an electrical contractor and you're doing new construction, do you have diversified into having a truck or somebody set up that can do that? So they can have them on your job, but when you get that service call, you got a guy you can send. Okay, that's diversifying your company. Now, that guy may be you, but again, you need to branch out. And the next thing would be, if you're doing new construction only, and whether it's residential or commercial, again, you want to make sure that you're actually balanced out into something else. Okay, whether you're doing new stuff and you have generators, or new stuff and you do maybe have a division that does low voltage, or maybe you do generators. Again, keeping everything today in one idea concept of just doing new construction. As an owner, I want to have the ability to have something else coming in, or something else that I can market. I listened to a show today. It was quite interesting, that it talks about marketing versus branding. Which is more important, marketing or branding? Now, the podcast I listened to, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, he basically said that you don't worry about branding until your marketing is complete and you're actually bringing in income. Now, I agree with that, because branding is what it is. You need a following before branding becomes a big issue. Look at Nike, look at all those big names, okay? But you have to market, whether it's guerrilla marketing, low-cost marketing options, getting out in your neighborhood, being seen in the vehicle, passing out business cards, all those things that we talk about that are low cost, door hangers, hiring somebody just to go hang door hangers, a family member or something. There's things you could do. You got to market. But I do believe that you have to create a concept of a brand before you market. And that is your logo, or what you're going to look at, because what you don't want to do is start a marketing campaign and then turn around and the logo or the message looks like crap. You don't want that, okay? So come up with your concept. But again, marketing is a key. And when I say that in the context of today's episode, or what we're doing tonight, is that the ability to, if you're doing new construction, that you have something else that you can market. And that would be whether you're a service division, whether or not it's generators, okay? And I'm going to talk about a couple more specialized things, but something else. Now, the interesting thing is that your company could be 3 guys, 2 guys, guy and a gal, whatever it is, or 100. The perception to the public is that they don't know the number of people you have. So if you portray this as a service division of your company, and you market that way while you're still busy doing your new construction or commercial or whatever you're doing, you shouldn't get so focused on that, okay? You have to work your business. So focused on your day-to-day that you forget that there's a diversification that has to take place in your business so that you can start pushing something else as well. You're still doing your day-to-day, but you need to have the marketing concepts going, saying, okay, I'm going to go to work every day and I'm wiring residential, commercial, but I want to market my service business or my generator business or something like that, okay? That's the concept that we're thinking about, because you don't want to, again, be so focused, and I think that's what happens. We get busy. If you're 1 and 2 and 3 person shop, a 4 person, and you start getting business from this general contractor, you're so focused on that work, you forget that, that work is going to end. And what is the next thing I have on the plate? So when you diversify out, you can have service and you can be marketing or promoting or branding that service division while you're doing what's paying the bills right now. Okay. And so that's kind of what I talked about to him I have a lot of people that just say, well, we're a residential contractor. We do new construction, remodel, or whatever. I'm like, okay, do you do service? Oh, yeah, we do service. But do you market your service? And a lot of companies do this very well, and some do this very poorly, right? How they market it and how they promote it. You can promote it almost as a separate division, even though it might be just a couple of you doing it. It doesn't matter. It's all perception to the end user. Now, you obviously got to be able to do the work. You with me? So, I mean, if you're going to market, you can promote it. But at the end of the day, it's being diversified out into other things in promoting those things. Not just saying I'm an electrical contractor and I do all these things. We know you are talented. You can do them. But do you identify them and promote them? That's the difference, okay? Because people aren't just going to gravitate to you. They might know you do new construction, but do they know you do service? Do they know you do generators? Do you specialize in generators? Have you reached out to a generator manufacturer to see if you can get a dealership or what's entailed to do that? Okay, so let's talk about some things that you can go out into. One of the things would be low voltage. Now, you're an electrician, you think, well, I already do that. Low voltage being, 600 volts, or actually it's anything 2,000 volts or less, believe it or not, is low voltage. But when I say low voltage, I'm talking data communication. I'm talking things like that, audio. Do you branch out into that so that when you're doing the electrical, can you also do the audio system? Maybe you contact somebody like Legrand and they have a unique A-bus systems that can be installed the same time you're roughing something in with a surround sound system or audio. Do you offer these things? And are they something that you can actually market and brand separately as a division of what you do so that you can brand that or market it, and they're very closely related, branding and marketing, out so that the people think, whoa, this is a total separate thing. And you start cultivating that thing. And that is how you branch out. Now, maybe it be generators or whatever it may be, but we're talking low voltage. And low voltage, when I say low voltage, which means anything that might be Cat 5, Cat 6, anything that might be communication. If you don't know that and you're not familiar with that, well, you're an electrician, dude. Just take a class, learn it. It's not that complicated to find something that you can deal in it, okay? I see a comment that says that low voltage is 50. No. Low voltage is actually anything 2,000 volts or less. That's considered low voltage. Now, we don't call anything under 50 or whatever. We kind of refer to that as low voltage. But to be honest with you, low voltage is, and think about it, you only have low, medium, and high. Well, we know what medium voltage is, right? We know what high voltage is. Medium voltage typically is 2,001 to 35,000. And over 35,000 is high. So we only have low. So what do you think a 600 volt system would be? It's low. It's low voltage. Now, when we're dealing with the stuff, we don't call it low voltage or anything that's lower than basically, the 50 amps, 60 amp, 60 volts, things that are lower. Well, it's still low voltage, right? But you can specialize in these different things and add that as a part of what you do. But here's the thing. As a contractor, I did a lot of things. I didn't have no problem installing generators. I installed quite a few generators. I did low voltage, which is our normal wiring. I did low voltage, which is our 0 to 10 and the those type of thing. Low voltage, again, like we'd say, here's something maybe 50 volts or less. I did those type of things, control work and all that. But I did them in the scope of my business. So I was marketing my electrical contracting business, but I wasn't diversifying it into trying to create these marketable positions. Abernathy Electrical Services also has a low voltage or control. Most of the time we'll call that signaling and control. We'll call that part of my business. And then I had the generator install portion of my business so that I could focus on that, because all these things have multiple leads that mean something to somebody else. There's a lot of people that see electrical contractors and they know they can do generators, maybe or maybe not. But if I market myself as Abernathy Electrical Services, and I also talk about in my marketing, I do a generator division or I have something else, then it gives me something else to branch it out of and diversify. Okay. Again, if you want to put all your eggs in one electrical contractor basket, and originally Concept started with the electrical contractor who was doing just new construction, and that was it. And he had no other avenues, even though he knew how to do generators. He knew how to do other types of things, the low voltage stuff, and he knew how to do all this stuff. But he didn't identify it, and he was so focused on just being an electrical contractor doing new construction. Okay, so he didn't realize, and so when that went to pot, luckily for him, he had branched out when we had a conversation. I said, you need to do more than just putting all your eggs in that one basket, especially for that one general contractor. And he was getting so much business from that person that he was like, Paul, I'm like, do you think it's going to go on forever? No, it's not. It's not going to go on forever. At some point, it's going to drop off, right? So he branched out. So again, the next one that I talk about is, and there's so many others with the low voltage or audio communications, things like that, automation. If you don't understand how to do them and you're an electrician, you can take classes very quickly. Okay. A lot of the manufacturers for these systems, if you reach out to them like Legrand or other ones that have these systems, then you might find out that they have training that they'll offer for their system and you can install it. Maybe you want to branch out and do alarm systems, pass the certain tests that allow you to do the alarm systems. And maybe you want to add that as something that you diversify out into that can complement what you do. That's the point of that. The next thing that I thought was pretty interesting is I'll go to this one. So my next contractor example, as a young contractor, he'd only been in business a couple years, and he called me and we talked about it, and he says, I'm scared that I'm getting quite a bit of business from this a core group of couple contractors. One did a lot of work, one didn't do so much work, but they're still getting some building every now and then. They're getting some work. And he said, I'd really like to add something else to my business. And I'm like, okay, are you going to market your business as just an electrical contractor, or do you want to try to keep that business going with those two or so, but feed something else that could feed in? He said, that's what I want. He says, I'm going to keep doing their work, but I want to, in the background, promote something else and try to bring in another avenue. And I said, okay. So he did. And what he did was quite unique, is that he targeted real estate agents. And he's targeted the real estate agents for his service, which, again, we talked about it and I gave him some advice on it. And I had been kind of doing it for years, but it wasn't something that it was just easy for me to do. And he really put up a campaign, and he made a visit, and he targeted all of the real estate agents for what's called a fresh up. Now, the fresh up that he did was he will go into a house that is dated. And what he would do is he would go in with a package, and he would say, I will replace all the receptacles. I will replace them to whether it's Decora or whatever it was. He said, I will replace all the luminaires because they're dated. And you'd be amazed how that makes a house look. I mean, walls are walls, right? But you update the fixtures and different things like that. And he's also, what he did was he added things like smart technology. So he went in and says, tell you what, to make your home stand out, I will add things like Alexa switches or Google Voice switches and all this kind of stuff in order to make it stand out. And then he even branched out to install things like the Ring lights and the Ring doorbells and all this kind of stuff. So he diversified that and he targeted that audience. It was amazing. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he goes, I'm making more doing that than I am the contracting work. And I'm like, it's awesome. So what does that tell you? What's the next thing you need to do? And he said, branch out to something else. And I'm like, absolutely, man. And so what he did was pretty unique, is that he started targeting all of the home inspectors. Now, before you go bashing home inspectors, remember, they're just calling out what's required by their state. They're not electrical experts, but somebody's got to do that work. And it's really, a home inspection is a negotiation between a buyer and a seller. They're not required to do anything. The seller and the buyer's going to get a home inspector. They're going to look at it and tell you what they think needs fixing. The seller's going to either fix it or not going to fix it. However, somebody has to fix it. So he branched out to that and started contacting them and really made it an effort to get to know them. Now, anytime there's something that's wrong in a house for sale, they call him. And some people really get bent out of shape when they go out and they say, well, I got to fix this thing this home inspector said I got to fix. And I used to look at him and I go, really? Fix it. It's money. It's in your pocket. You know, now, granted, they call something else that really doesn't need to be fixing. Then that's where you have to step up and say to the people involved and say, okay, yeah, I understand their position. But that doesn't need to be, I mean, from my professional perspective, because this is what I do for a living. And that's okay. Right? But everything's different. But most of the stuff, it's easy to fix. Okay? So anyway, that's how he diversified out. And he's doing great. And he's like, and then he came to me and he said after that, I said, you're not done. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're not done. He said, I'm so busy with this and this is awesome and this makes good. And I can get, he would go into a house and do what we call a flip up or a fresh up in these houses to sell. And he would make $4,000 and $5,000 just on a flip up for realtors and the owners. And he had a beautiful package and how he did it and presented it. And he worked with the supply houses. So he offered them, worked with them, said, here's the luminaires that we can do. And it was amazing. And I said, you're not done yet. He said, why? I said, because you need to now add a service division. He said, yeah, but I do service work. I get calls every now and then for that. I'm like, see, you're going back again. You got to diversify. You're doing so well. You got it going on. It doesn't matter whether you're the one doing it or somebody in it, but you need to now market yourself as having a service division. And they're like, yeah, but it's still just me. I said, you're forgetting all that we talked about. You did this and it was successful. You did this and it's becoming successful. Do you want to grow your business? It's a yes or no question. If you don't want to grow your business and you're complacent, somebody else is going to grow it. Or you're happy with it the way it is. Then you won. You succeeded. But I'm a big believer in always branching out. So I said, take one of those trucks if you have it, or at least take somebody you can designate in your company, whether it's you if you're small, and now market service and be specific about it. Service. Not say we do new construction, service. And treat it as a separate division. It doesn't matter whether you have 150 people, 1,000 people, or just 3 people. Perception to the community. Perception to how people perceive you. Again, I for years used to have websites with my electrical contractor. You would have thought that I had 1,000 damn people working for me because of the emails and the way it went and the way we corresponded and the way it is and the way my system was and the phone system and the way it worked. When at the max time, I had maybe not more than 15 people total, even in the office, everything. So at the end of the day, it looked like the perception was we were bigger than we are. Now, some people say, well, that's backfire because people say you're so big, that means your prices are going to be high. I don't worry about that. Okay. That's going to take care of itself once they see the price. Depending on the market you're in, my brother says all the time, he can't get near the prices in Virginia that we can get in Texas, for example. I won't even go out to a house, for example, in Texas without it. And it's just me now. I've gotten smaller with, I'm getting older and I've got other things in the fire, I will not go to a house for less than 85 an hour. Now, if I had overhead and burdens and other different things, that would be higher. If I had employees and I'm sending, that would be higher. I get it. But I'm saying for me, I don't even go out for that. It's not worth my time to do that. Okay. So again, you have to design and we'll have a guest that'll come on that'll kind of talk about all those things and how you do your pricing and all that. And we'll have episodes that'll talk about that. Again, once my new system comes, we'll have dual cameras. Everything will be different. I will make sure that the audio is on next time. Okay. Apologize for that. Okay. So anyway, so that's what he did. And so his next step is to go into the service part. He always did service work, but he never focused on service work. Okay. So again, focusing on these pieces, or basically taking your electrical contracting business and dissecting out the parts that can diversify. And so the next one is specialized in. Some of the people will go into things like purely home automation. And now, since everything, and I talked about it a little earlier, and kind of mixed it in there with the real estate fresh up, but that's how he approached it. And it was the lighting and everything, switches, receptacles, everything. And then he would give a whole home check, and it's he created his seal of approval so that when the seller was selling it, it was something that they would provide to the buyer. When the buyer's looking to get a home inspector, they can say, but we've already had the electrical looked at by an electrical contractor, and he's put his seal. And he came up with his own unique little seal and everything like that he did as a service for his customer. And he marketed it. And the real estate agents loved it because that meant that they were fixing things up front and they got less surprises by a home inspection. Or at least if the home inspector found something, it would look and say, well, this was probably already addressed by the electrician. It's brilliant concept of how to do that. And again, it's beneficial to him. You could create it any way you want. He just branched out into that and saw opportunity. Okay, so the next thing that they're looking at is, again, getting into something like where you do Alexa stuff, where you do Google Voice stuff, where you do the Ring doorbell or the Nest and all those type of things as a segment that you market. Smart homes, smart technology. Okay. It's so easy to put those devices in these days. My house itself, I have that on everything. I have the pods. And people don't want to set this stuff up. And so I had been doing for quite a while lately. Had been doing a lot of these devices in switches, 3-way ones, single poles. It's just and they all connect to the person's phone. You help them set it up. It just goes so easy. And at the end of the day, it can be marketed as a separate thing, but you have to market it. And the reason I tell you this is because electrical contractors go through life as electrical contractor. And electrical contractors are typically always looking for new construction or remodels. But they don't always say, now there's some that do, don't get me wrong. Some of the bigger ones, Mr. Sparky and all those others, they understand it and they get it. But I'm a believer that a contractor, even if you're 1 and 2, 3 guys shop, you can give the impression that you have different divisions of whether or not you do generators. And you might have do it anyway as a contractor, but now it's kind of different. It's part of the generator division. And then you might have something else. One of the changes that are coming is SPDs, surge protective devices, expanding in the 2020 National Electrical Code. And it's expanding to require them all on 1 and 2 family dwellings, to require them at the service. So, I am about ready to tell the gentleman who's got all these ideas and he's doing really, really well. I'm going to make him another suggestion. I'm going to say you need to market surge protective devices. Anytime you do a new construction, they're going to be required. But you know what? There's a market for promoting them to existing installations and explaining to the consumer there's a reason it's required in new construction for single 1 and 2 family dwellings. You don't have it if you're in a high prone area for lightning strikes or surges and things like that. You have very sensitive electrical equipment in your house. You're not selling smoke oil, snake oil, whatever here. It is being required by the NEC. So why not be proactive on it? And again, you can go around and market that, and you're helping people. Okay, I have surge protected devices on my computer systems. I have a a surge protective device in my panel. I understand the concept of getting over that threshold and the amount of energy it takes to take things out that are extremely important. And so, again, I believe in it. And I'm in an area that's typically prone to a lot of serious storms and also large spikes depending on where I am on the electrical grid. So it doesn't really matter because in the 2020 code, it's going to be required for 1 and 2 family dwellings, unless, of course, your state has an issue with it and removes it. Of course, they can amend anything. All right, so again, that's kind of things. Now, when we talk about doing all these things, you've heard me talk about, we've talked about the diversity in branching out in your work and all those type of things. Also, it's important to really realize also what's called profit and margin. And of course, not really the topic of the day because we're talking about not keeping all our eggs in one basket. And hopefully you came in and you understand what we're talking about there. But profit margin, again, I typically try to have a profit margin of anywhere between 20 and 30%. Everybody's different depending on your overhead. My profit margin is trying to get at least 20 to 30. I like to be on the 30 side. If it's higher than that, that's wonderful. Again, my product markup is anywhere between 20% or higher, depending on where I get it and what I can get for the product. That's just me. I don't have the same overhead as somebody else might have. So I have worked my margins out. I've worked my profit out. And some people are very happy if you're a very large contractor getting 10, 15, 20%. And some people are not happy until they're getting 40, 50, and 60%. If you can command that in your market, that's great. You might not be able to command that in your market, but it's much easier to do this if you do diversify and you create yourself. So let me see if I was going to do my business, how I would do this. So I'm an electrical contractor and I'm doing new construction. Okay. And I know how to do generators. I would look and see if there's a generator dealership. Very easy to install. Now, maybe you don't know how to do the gas part or the hookup or the any of that type of stuff. That's fine because you probably know a plumber or a mechanical guy that wouldn't have any problem at all throwing them a bone to make that connection for you. Not at all. Okay. You can work those relationships. Maybe you already have a license to do all that stuff, gas and plumbing and all that. Maybe you do, right? So again, relationships are really important because while you're doing well, you throw somebody a bone. And that's when I talk about the marketing, guerrilla marketing in relationships. I have relationships with mechanical guys, plumbers, okay, other electricians who send me work knowing that they're really big and they can't do the small stuff. And today, that's all I care about, okay? Today, this gray is natural. So they're feeding this relationships in a sense that if I'm going to get something and I can throw a bone to one of those relationships, I throw a bone to one of those relationships. And as you build those relationships, they're going to throw them back to you. Okay, you don't have to do it all. You just have to know the right people, and you can get help with doing anything. You can find a contractor that's local, that's maybe an HVAC guy, and go to them and have a conversation with them. Ask them for a cup of coffee, and let's go to Starbucks when we can finally get out and go to these things. And say, I'd like to. The problem I have with people is they're not blunt enough. I would look at somebody and say, and I say this to the company I work for all the time. Ask for what you want up front. Get rid of the small talk. Say, look, I want to form a relationship with you. I want to be able to refer people to you. And I would hope once I prove to you worthy that you'll refer people to me. But I want to build this relationship. All they can do is say, yeah, no, I've got an electrician I use. And they might. Or they might have never been approached and they have no electrician because they're like, dude, I'm a plumber. I'm a gas guy. But you're trying to form a relationship. And that also feeds into that diversification because they might know somebody that needs some cable TV stuff done inside or some audio visual stuff or whatnot like that. So again, it allows you to cross mix it over. And that's so again, kind of wrapping this back around here because we're getting too close to the end is diversifying yourself and your company. Don't be so locked into one project that one general contractor, I've been there, and they're giving you and feeding you tons of work, right? And you're getting that work, And you're thinking that, boy, this could go on forever. I did that. I can tell you a little story. Back in Harrisonburg, Virginia, at this point, it would have altered the change of where I am today as a contractor, because what I did was I formed a relationship with a builder. And this builder wasn't a small builder. He was doing a subdivision that had probably close to 4,000 homes in it. And these were all nice, big homes. That would have been enough to keep me and my small company busy for quite a while. And I was perfectly happy with doing just residential. We did commercial too, and some industrial, and some motor work for the poultry facilities that are around Harrisonburg. But I can tell you right now, I'd have been very happy pulling in the money from these custom homes in this subdivision that was it's called Preston Lake, and it was very unique. And so part of that, he was building his own home, and his home was a 12,000 square foot home. Okay. And he said, you know what? I did a couple of homes for him. He said, you know what? I'm building my home. Would you wire it for me? And I was like, really? No, I'm not going to wire it. Of course I wired it. And I got to form a really good relationship with him. And I started down that road of thinking, whoa, this could keep me busy for the next couple of years. And then it would allow me to do, like we said, think about other things. But I got so focused on all these homes, and they were big homes, and they were all going to make me a lot of money. I mean, I did his home alone, and I can't remember, but this is back in the, this is back in the early 2000s or something, yeah. And on that one house alone, my profit was close to $60,000. He had everything in this house. I mean, it was just... It had a pool house, a big separate garage. I mean, he was loaded. It appeared that he was. And I just, they changed everything every other day. And I'm a big believer in, my brother thinks different than me. He's a wonderful guy. But he's like, I can't charge him for this if they changed it. I'm just going to do it. Not me. Not me. If I put all those recessed lights in and you come in and the wife goes, can you move them? I'm like, I can move anything you want me to move. And I would always keep track of it, right, in writing. Back then it was all writing, but I kept track of it. Change order, no problem. You just, yep. I always had the sheets. I had them made from the copy place. They were two carbon, the white and the yellow, and they were change orders. And I'd have them there in my metal flip open binder, and I'd say, absolutely. And I'd write them down. This is what you want, right? Yes, because they just thinking, well, yeah, that's what I want. And I'd go, okay, can you sign the bottom for me? It's just a change order so I can do this. She's like, sure. Boom. There you go. And so I had a change order. Now, in my change orders, it was basically the agreements of the time and material for the change. Okay. So, this is how I did it. And so, again, prices added up. And when he would question it, I'd go, your wife signed it. He'd go, okay. So anyway, the whole concept here was, I better please this guy because he's got a crap load of homes that he's building. And it's his subdivision. He owned it. It was huge. Had its own lake and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep this guy happy. So I wired his house. Most of my guys spent a lot of their time there. I was running around the country with Eaton, teaching the ECCN program for them and help develop that. But I'd come back and we'd work on it, and I was in there working, and they always seemed to work better when I was there. I don't know why. But anyway, we finished that job, and then, of course, he had a big swimming pool, and we finished the swimming pool area. And then of course, he had the big garage, and he kept adding on. So long story short, on that end of it, I thought I was in gravy, okay? And again, that eggs in the basket type of scenario. I thought that, I was putting the other stuff on the back burner, what I'm telling you today to do, diversify. And I'm like, no, I got this guy. I'm doing all his work. Guess what happened? The economy crashes, and he doesn't have the money to pay the loan for all of the property. And so anyway, the whole thing comes crashing down. He's got homes that are in the middle being constructed, everything. And we're trying to do these homes for him. And then all of a sudden I get this call that he's not going to be able to pay the bills and that he can't pay me any more than what he owes. And the property is going to be sold on the steps of the courthouse. And he's losing everything. Now, his family owns other subdivisions throughout the country, so he was well established. But this was his baby. This was his, he wasn't a young guy. I mean, he was probably in his late 50s, early 60s. This was his end. This was his swan song. And it would have kept them busy for years. And it had a retail area, commercial area. It was a big project, and we were the leading player in the electrical. Then all of a sudden that crashed and happened. And all of a sudden, those dreams of having all that work, being able to expand for that work, was literally gone almost in an instant. Just like that. And I had not finished my plan to diversify. So when I talk to other people about it, I'm talking to them from experience. When I say, it's okay if you're small, but look big. Okay? Look big. You can market yourself as an electrical contractor, and that's like drinking from a big bowl. Or, you go to these fancy restaurants, what do? They give you these big plates with these little portions. You know what I mean? So, or they give you these little plates with these little portions. Anyway, the perception is you're like, okay, I don't know if that's going to fill me up. But you know what? They're high class, and that's expected. So in my scenario here is, I want to give the impression that my company has separate divisions that can handle every need that you have, whether it's the generator application and you seek out to see if a generator dealership, even if there's not one, that nothing stops you from purchasing the generators from wholesale and installing them and everything. You don't have to be a dealer with somebody, but again, check it out. See if you can. Kohler has them. There's other different ones. Or, don't be in bed with either one, because you can get them anywhere. Okay? So, to be honest with you, I remember seeing Generacs being sold at the Costco with the transfer switch. It was a pretty good price, too. Okay? There's other avenues to be able to buy these. There's other places that sell the generators. So you can do the generator stuff. All right? Why not market yourself like my friend did with his real estate fresh up, or offering opportunities, reaching out, getting out there, doing business cards are cheap. Flyers are cheap. But you don't want to go to them promoting yourself as an electrical contractor by itself when they probably don't care about that. They want to know what the service is you're providing. And this is a unique service. So again, how you ever do it, I'm more than happy to consult with anybody on that, give you my ideas, and help you out any way I can. Feel free to email me at any time at info@masterthenec.com or info@electricalcodeacademy.com. I'm more than happy. If you don't want to do that, just go to the website, either one of those websites, and up the top right, you'll see a contact us. Click on it, and you can send us an email through the system. And we will be able to answer any questions, give you any advice. I'm more than happy to try to help you. My job is to help you succeed. And that's what I live for, to teach you the code, help you succeed as a contractor. Think about feeding your family with the concept of not putting all your eggs in one basket. That's the concept, right? Okay. Now, that's the end of our show when it comes to that. If you're on the video stream, I'll come back to you on the video stream. For those that are listening over on the podcast, we're going to sign off. And just thank y'all for listening, and join us next week. I promise I will get the audio right. Till next time, folks, stay safe and God bless. You've been listening to Electrician Live with your host, Paul Abernathy. All right, folks, we're here at the video stream again. And again, based on tonight's topic, if you have any questions, we aren't going to talk code tonight. So if you have any questions about the topic, electrical contracting, any of the things that we talked about tonight, feel free to chime in. For those that have never been here before, we do this every Saturday at 8 p.m., usually when things work right. And we're going to get it all straightened out. Trust me. I've actually got a new console that's coming that it's called a Stream Deck. You push one button and all this would have been taken care of and I wouldn't have had to worry about it. But it is what it is. So we did it anyway. We made it. So if anybody has any questions about tonight's topic or anything, thanks y'all for coming. I'm noticing some folks in the room. Jay, thanks for coming. I am. Thank you for coming. Oh, thank you. Demetrio, thank you. Roel, thanks for coming. You're late, but you got it. You'll be able to listen to it in the rebroadcast. Holmes, how you doing, sir? Thanks for coming. So thanks for coming for everybody that actually came to the stream tonight. Hopefully you're sharing these. And again, we're going to bring a lot more interesting topics as we move further. We're going to have some special guests. I'm really excited about a special guest, Jeffrey Mort. We're actually recording a podcast for his show. If you haven't visited it yet, you should. It's 3 is the number 3, 3phaseradio.com. It's a great listen. And we're going to be doing a podcast this week. And it's going to be talking about the top 3 changes to the 2020 NEC for residential and top 3, maybe not the top 3, but 3 significant changes for residential and commercial. So there'll be 6 changes overall. The ones that are going to be more impactful, whether it's the cost, that's the kind of thing that it's going to be, a costful impact in some of these changes. So that should be a great show. That'll be broadcast on Jeff's podcast series. And we'll do one, and he'll come as a guest with me on the Electrician Live. We're also going to have split screening and multiple guests from the industry, electrical industry, as well in future shows. But right now, because of the COVID-19, the additional cameras that we have on order cannot seem to leave from where they're at. Obviously, I hate to say this, but they're made in China, and most of those cameras are that I'm looking at. So again, there's nothing I can do about it. So once that gets in place, things will change, and we will have all those extra guests, and it will really you'll see different setup, and everything will be different once that comes along. But that's going to be in the future. So hopefully you're just we've only been doing this now for a couple months, and it's getting a little bit better each time, hopefully. So let's see we got any comments? Anybody have any questions? It says stickers. William, you got your stickers? Absolutely. If anybody has not gotten stickers yet, those that are watching this stream, whether it's in rebroadcast or live, we do have stickers, and we do give stickers away. Obviously, we have, and I will show you these stickers so that you can see them. We have the Master Electrician sticker. That happens to be what you are. We have the Journeyman sticker, and that little dude on there is supposed to be me 30 years ago. You can tell because this one has hair. Okay. The next one is maybe you're in a state where it doesn't really signify journeyman or master. Maybe you're just electrician in a state. Perfectly well. There's the electrician one with the little dude on it. They're available, obviously. Now, the ones that are my favorite, but some people like them, some people don't, is the electrical wizardry right there. Hard to see in this camera, but there you go. Electrical wizardry, got the little wizard on there. And then last but not least, one that seems to offend most people for some weird reason is the Code Mafia, the Electrician Brotherhood. And I actually started that thing called the Electrician Brotherhood, and you are a member of the Electrician Brotherhood for listening to these shows, but that's a good sticker. How do you get these stickers? Even if you already have these stickers, the process is every time you want some more stickers, you have to send an email. So you send an email to info, I-N-F-O, at masterthenec.com. Or I guess you could also do info at electricalcodeacademy.com. Always the .coms now. And in the subject line, put, hey, Paul, I want my stickers. And then in the body of the email, just tell me what stickers you want. Whether you want the master, the journeyman, the electrician, the mafia, or the wizardry. Now, also, I didn't show you, and there were limited supply on these, is the podcast, promoting our podcast. It's going to get bigger and better. We just kind of got started in it. Everything has to start somewhere. And we're going to have a lot of special guests that come on. And you'd be surprised. I'm working out some industry guests that hopefully will be coming on. And you might be shocked at who it is. So anyway, there you go. They're all available. If you want them, just let me know. Okay? And, you know, some people, the mafia, yeah, they love the wizard and the mafia. Yeah, they were cool. We don't have the one, the more kind of the one God, family, and code. Don't have that yet. That is going to be in the next batch with a couple other designs. And of course, in the next batch will also be the one with the ohms wheel on it. Everybody seems to love that one, and that looks awesome on the shirts. Here's some shirts. That's my embroidered shirt. They're not available. Okay, so let's see here. What do we got? Number one, saying no. Number two, taking on too much work at a time with not enough help. I'm sorry, Jay. I got to read the context of the whole thing here. You said, I have been an electrical contractor going on 6 years now. Here are a few areas that I had to learn hard lessons from. Number one, saying no. Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. And I'll talk about that here in a second, a little bit. And the next one is taking on too much work at a time with not enough help. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the saying no. Now, everybody hates to say no. The problem is you have to say no to things that, one, are outside of the scope of your knowledge base. So somebody might ask you to do something and you don't feel comfortable with it. You need to be able to say no without the fear that's going to affect something else you do. Like, if this guy says no, then I'm not going to give him anything else. You know, you need to be able to say no to work. And you need to be able to know your limitations on that work. Okay, I would say no in a heartbeat if somebody came to me and said, Paul, I need you to take on a contract of doing a bunch of motors in an industrial facility here in Texas. I would look at them in a heartbeat and say, no. Now, call me if you want me to come out and service something, but I'd say no. We're not going to talk code tonight, Demetrio. It's not a code night. We'll do that during the week. So at the end of the day, that's kind of one of those things. You have to be able to say no. And again, taking on too much work, that's because you said yes too often. And obviously, you want to keep your core people happy, right? So if you take on more work and you don't have the people, you're only going to tick off the people that are in your nest egg anyway, the ones that you're doing the work for. So yeah, it is a balance that's going to take you a while. Again, I wanted everything when I started out. It didn't matter. I was doing this, that, this. And at first, it was like I loved the ability to spring into different things. But at the end of the day, I did have to learn to say no. No. And now I have absolutely no problem saying no. I probably get from my this is free now, my free Yelp account for my company. I probably get anywhere from 3 calls a week just from that. And I don't even market that. Just from that. And I don't pay for the premium one. I just put it up there. Again, that's part of my guerrilla marketing. So I get that. That just comes in every week. And these are decent jobs. These aren't just little things. These are pretty decent, where I'm probably going to have to go in somebody's home and cut sheetrock and to do it, because I've told you people before, I don't do sheetrock. You can do sheetrock. I don't do sheetrock. I'll cut a hole, but I don't do sheetrock. I'll cut it. I'll install them. And then I'll give you the little discs I cut out because I do all of my fishing in sheetrock with cutting little round holes so they can go back in it. And I use the same thing I use to cut my recesses. I'll cut that or a smaller hole saw if I need to get from point A to point B. But I don't fix it myself. Sorry. It's not what I do. Okay. So that's good. So that's great, Jay. Great things to think about learning that. Again, proving. When I first started out, I felt like I had to do everything because I'm a contractor. I want to let everybody know Paul is here, but really you have to fall into that comfort zone and not overextend yourself. And sometimes saying no is going to be the benefit part. Okay. Let's see. William says, letting my emotions affect my bids is my hardest lesson to learn. Example is bidding a job low than normal because people don't have much money. Yeah. I had something similar to that, William. And for me, I hated bidding because when I was bidding as a contractor, and now I'm much more knowledgeable of bidding in the softwares used today than it was back when I started, is I was always afraid that I was leaving money on the table. And I didn't want to leave any money on the table. Okay. I believe in getting paid for your work. I believe in it. I mean, give you an example. I know that because people don't have much money. I get it. And my brother's the same way. Let me give you an example. And then I'll talk about the bidding. But let me give you an example. When you say bidding, because they don't have much money. First of all, if they want a project done that you're bidding on, then they got the money. All right. Or otherwise, they're just lowballing you. Somebody's got to do it. So, but for me, let me go lower than that. I got a call, I don't know how many, couple weeks ago, I don't remember what it was. And I went to a job and something wasn't working. Everything circuit was off. And I went in and it was simply resetting a GFCI. And I'm going to say elderly couple, can't be that much older than me. But they didn't know any electrical. And what had happened was that somebody had put multiple the circuit to the bathroom. They had looped them through for the receptacles, but each one of them had their own GFCI. So it had tripped upstream, and inside that bathroom it wouldn't reset, and they couldn't get the reset, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know it, and they didn't think about the other bedrooms. And why do people do that anyway when you only need one GFCI and then everything on the load side would be protected? Anyhow, I went there, looked at it, wouldn't reset. I said, that's odd. So I went to the panel circuit for it and looked at it. Luckily, it was labeled pretty decent. I went, it's on. That's odd. So then I went to the other bathrooms and I saw it and pushed it and I said, well, this one's tripped. And it reset. Then I went to the other bathroom and it reset. And I went, All right, let me explain what's going on here so that you know in the future, because I got two choices for you. If you don't want this to happen again, I can replace the ones here with regular receptacles and go try to find the first one and let that be the GFCI, and then everything downstream will be protected, and that won't happen to you again. At least you'll know where to go. I said, but even if I did replace them, you still have to go back to that one. So now you just need to know that if this trips, you could go into other rooms. So I gave them an education, right? And I fixed their issue. Now, I was probably not there more than 20 minutes max, even with my talking, and y'all know how long-winded I am anyway. I charged my normal rate, the minimum of, and for me, okay, it was just me, okay? I sold my companies years ago. It's just me now. And most of y'all know I work for a large company. So again, I still get my hands dirty because I still love it. And so I got an addition that I'm wiring in a couple weeks. Yep, I love it. I got license. I've got my contractor's license. I got my insurance. I love it. It still keeps me into it. But at the end of the day, I still charge them $85 for my minimum of 1 hour. Now, my brother can't do that. Plus, he says they can't get 85 in Virginia anyway. But again, small company now. I don't have the same type of overhead. So again, everything's based on your overhead, what your burden is. Bigger companies would obviously have to charge more. They send somebody out. They got to make money. They got to pay a helper. I get it. Everything's different. But they also have a marketing campaign, and they got to pay for all this stuff and the insurances and everything. So I get it. I don't feel bad about charging less. It's my business, my business. But at the end of the day, did I feel bad about charging those people the full fee for an hour, even though I was only there 20 minutes? Absolutely not. Pay me. I'm a skilled professional. I did my job, and I'm out. Now, translate it back to bidding. I used to hate bidding because I felt like I left money on the table if I didn't get the job. And when I did get the job, I'm thinking, it wasn't long after I got the job that the general contractor or somebody would say to me, "Oh man, you do awesome work, man. We got you for $10,000 less." And I just don't want to hear that. I just don't want to hear that, because I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Because I want that 10. Now, some people will say, yeah, but you've made the money that you bid. You're happy with it. No, man, I'm in business to make money. If I left 10 grand on the table because I was $10,000 under everybody else, and that's the only reason he went with me, not because of my work, my work ethic, my quality of work, but no, because I was $10,000 cheaper, I want that 10 grand from that guy. I'm just saying, that's me. I never got emotional, and you're right, William. It's hard because I try to remember that. What's that old saying? It's called that movie called Friday. I don't know if you've ever seen it. That has Ice Cube in it and Chris Tucker, and he goes, "You're messing with my money. You're messing with my emotions." Wait, how does he go? He goes, "You're messing with my money. You're messing with my emotions, Smokey." That's true. I try to separate the money from the emotions. Now, if I'm doing something for a Habitat Humanity home, or I'm doing something that I know going into it that these people don't have a lot of money, I made that choice to go into it. And you're right. You let your emotions get involved in it, but I have to make that choice, and I have to be happy with that when I go into it. Up front, I have to be happy with it. And I just have to settle for the outcome for that. But any normal bidding application, other than that, I don't worry about it, any of that application at all. I just simply go into it and bid it, and that's it. I'm not sure what that means, that big worm, David. So anyway, that's kind of how I address it. So any of you might address it differently, but that's kind of how I address the bidding aspect. Yeah, that's right. Is it sing with my money? It's like messing with my money. I thought it was like messing with my money is like messing with. I guess I missed the sing part. Sing with my money. Anyway, to me, I try to take the emotions out of it. I really do. It is tough. It is very true, William. Very true. Okay, you go. That's what they said during the movie. Yeah, I loved that movie. That was an awesome movie. Ice Cube. That was just awesome. Anybody have any other questions dealing with tonight's topic, talking about diversity in your business? Does any of you do generator work? Or any of you do? And of all the ideas that I talked about tonight, is Big Perm, Smokey. There you go. All of the stuff that I talked about tonight, which was the thing that you found most intriguing? To me, it was what the guy did with our conversation when he approached the real estate agents and the home inspectors, and the concept of how he did it, how he created his seal, his idea. And he was up in the forefront, knowing that most home inspection applications or real estate interactions are at the end. And so, again, it's very emotionally driven, and it's a negotiation, a home inspection is. So he got on the forefront. He got on the part where is the seller in convincing them that let me address these issues that might come up in an inspection, and that way you have leverage. I thought it was brilliant, and he's doing wonderful with it. And he's made relationships with home inspectors. And, again, there are some people that bash a home inspector and say they try to be electricians, and they really don't. I used to train a lot of them. I've written books for home inspecting industry. Great bunch of people. But they're looking at the safety end of it. So they might make recommendations that are safety driven, that kind of fall into code. They're not code people, so they shouldn't be dabbling into code, but those lines can get blurry. But they're just, you're the one that's the expert that comes in, because they can't do the work. There's an ethics thing there. They can't do it. So an electrical contractor can't be a home inspector and inspect and fix its own work. Doesn't mean you can't be a home inspector, but you can't do the work, okay, that you call out on an inspection. So again, it was just beautiful. So he got in the forefront of it and used his profession to do things like fresh ups. It was amazing to me. He told me he did one house that was like a 4,000 square foot house. He replaced all the devices, all of the plates, all of the luminaires. I mean, just think about it. All the luminaires. He made markup on the luminaires. He installed the luminaires. Okay. It was, installed ceiling fans. If the ceiling fan didn't allow for a ceiling fan box, okay, then he would put one in. And it was a beautiful thing. It's just amazing. And again, it really freshened up the homes. And he had to sell that, though. He had to sell them on that. And he did a good job on it. He called me and gave him some advice because I have been doing that for years back in Virginia. And just a fresh up type of thing. A house is, agents want to sell a house. And sometimes dated fixtures and things like that, luminaires, whatever you want to call them, really suck. Old switches suck. Decora, the nice square flat face ones, just putting in some Alexa to control some things, it's just awesome. And he's achieved it. Let's see here. Jay got a question for us. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Messing with my money is like messing with my emotions. I love that movie. Being a licensed inspector, CMP would be some heavy ammo, especially with real estate. Absolutely. So again, a lot of people don't understand when we talk about the CMECP program for master electricians. A lot of people that are negative will say, what is it, Paul? Did you create this certification for monetary gain? No. I've told you, the percentage of people that fail in that program is very high, okay? So in order to get through it, especially the newer program, in order to get through it and to achieve it, how you want to use it, how you want to market it, it's up to you. But you put that marketing, you put that concept as a professional, you go out there, you do pre-inspections. You're not doing home inspections. You're doing electrical. So therefore, you don't need a home inspector license. You're just doing the electrical. That's what you do. You're a professional. And you're doing it prior to any inspection being called out based on the buyer getting. So you're doing it at the point at the beginning of the stage. And you're offering this seal, this review of the system. Brilliant concept. I think he gets just for that alone, if people want just that and not the whole fresh up, I think he gets $450 just for that. And he gets a seal. He has this nice folder with the open it, has the seal of approval, and he just really marketed it up. And it's interesting thing how he did it. It's just an example of diversifying, and that's what he did. He didn't put all his eggs in one basket. Awesome. But he had that leverage going in there. Of course, when you get the CMECP, you got the pin that is exclusive to CMECPs. You put the logo on the side of your truck. You put it on your business cards. You market it. It's all about the marketing. That's the benefit of it. Of course, during the process, you learn code and you take it to a higher level and you get tested on that level. So basically, it's a refresher for masters is what it is. Okay. So anyway, yes. So that's an awesome way to approach it. Let's see here. Roel, it says, do you have to be trained, certified by each generator manufacturer to warranty the installation? I don't know that you do. You're a licensed electrical contractor. Again, every manufacturer might be different. You'd have to reach out to them and see. So I don't know that. But even if you're, it's a lot of times, for example, an electrical professional installs something, it's still under warranty. Okay. I forgot. Another thing that I used to do, I'm sorry, I didn't do this during the broadcast, is I actually also got into tankless water heater sales. Because usually when you do this, it needs a lot more power than a normal water heater. So you have to look at the panel to make sure it can handle it. But again, in most jurisdictions, you didn't need to be a plumber to do that, okay? Because it was an electric water heater and it wasn't a tank. It didn't have a storage, okay? But at the end of the day, you can sell it and add that to your business. And there's a lot of them out there that you can buy. You can get distributorships for them or even buy them at great prices and you turn around and resell them. Instant hot water, that's an awesome thing. I did that for years. I started out with a company called Sets and they're no longer in business. That was years and years ago. And I had them in my house. And I'm telling you, once I turned that water on, I just turned it on and I had hot water. Unlimited hot water. So again, they are very power hungry. Okay. Now they have the gas ones, which again, you have to be a plumber and a gas guy to do those, but you didn't have to be for the tankless water heaters that were electric. Electricians usually can do those because it wasn't a storage. It was more like an electrical appliance. It did connect to the water system, but it wasn't a water heater. Check with your jurisdiction, check with your laws. But again, in Virginia, I was able to do that. And I did quite well on those for quite a while on those. And then I just got so many things that I was doing that I started teaching and that took precedent. And then, of course, 2007, 2008 crashed and that type of thing. Let's see. Eager to start my, So currently, I think Roll, I can't remember the name of the thing. I thought it was Joel. I can't be sure. Sorry. Joined the CMEC program, but he wants to join under the 2020 edition. And we're currently under the 2017. And we're not slated to start the 2020 schedule for CMECPs for another month or so. So we're not really scheduled yet for that. But the concept of CMECP, whether you're 17 code or 2020 code, is the process of testing you. Not really to teach you all about the 2020. Obviously, we do that. But it's testing your knowledge and teaching you along the way. So it's kind of a twofold thing with those CMECP programs. And again, it's a federally protected mark, CMECP. And the interesting thing about it is if you go look at the mark, okay, you'll see that it's very distinct categories that the CMECP is in. So all of the haters out there, go read the mark, okay? Nobody has it. And nobody can do what it does. And again, even NFPA doesn't have something that is National Electrical Code driven. Theirs is safety driven. Okay, this is unique, and I'm sure it'll be copied, but this was the first to do it, and we hold it pretty tight, and it's quite a process. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? Do you have a hiring process? We at Wired Up try to hire apprentices with very little or non-experience. Well, Jay, when I was a contractor, obviously, now I don't hire anybody now except for, that work for me. Oh, Joel, no, okay. For me as a contractor now, it's just me. And I do very selective work anymore. I do take on people in order to help them get their time in for their licensing, okay, through my company. But as far as the majority of the work, I'm very selective in what I do, okay? And you'd be surprised to see people actually see me come to a job site. If they're looking for electricians and then they find me and then they start reading junk online and whatever, and they go, "You're the guy with the videos online?" And I'm like, "Yep. And I'm also here to do your work." So they're like, "Okay." But at the end of the day, the people that work for me now, the people that work here, the hiring is very simple because it's Brittany, Zachary, Darlene, and Jeff. So at the end of the day, Zach's my son, Brittany's my son's girlfriend, Darlene's my wife, Jeff is one of my best friends ever. So at the end of the day, this is tight knit, right? You with me? And of course, Jeff's an electrician as well, so if I need him, I need him. But at the end of the day, very tight. But when I was a contractor and I hired people, they would come and interview with me. I'd interview every single person. And I didn't necessarily, when I'm hiring them on as a helper, I needed them to make sure they didn't come in trying to convince me they knew so much to convince me. So, I was pretty well known in the industry even at that time. So, and we were known in the area and we did really good work. But I didn't want him coming in the door trying to overly impress me. So I would ask him qualifying questions like, what experience do you have? Have you done any electrical work? And I like to have somebody that had a basic understanding, basic concepts, didn't have to know too much because, again, I'm an educator. So I knew damn well that once I had them on my job site, and any of the people that ever worked for me, they probably got a serious education they didn't have to pay for, because every week we had code training. Every time I was on a job site, I would point out things and make it a learning moment. It might have annoyed some of them, but I would tell them why they're stapling it this way, why they're strapping this way, why they're in a building, why they're identifying branch circuits this way. And I would kind of regurgitate the code all day long. And I didn't really care whether they didn't like it or not, because I wanted something to absorb into their brain. Because first of all, I'm paying them, so they're on my time. But I was also, again, looking for, I don't need them too green, but I had no problem hiring a helper that's green. But I always look for somebody that had a little bit of experience, a little bit of an aptitude for something. And so I had leading questions that I would ask. Okay. Do you know how to, and for me also, I will tell you this, in all of my interviews, I had non-metallic sheath cabling on the table. I had some MC, and I had a box, and I have connectors, and I would sit them out on the table, and I would just go, what is this? And they could answer it or couldn't. That's okay, but I'd ask them. And then I'd say, what's this? And I'd say, what's this? And it made for a better interview rather than just sitting there with paper or somebody just sitting there. I would, it's funny because they'd come in my office. Really, literally, my secretary, they would bring them in my office, and I would say, okay, how you doing? You want to work for a company? Okay. And we'd have a little one-on-one, and then I would point something and say, what is this? In fact, I had them in a little box that I would pull out, and I'd lay it out, and I'd go, what is this? And if they went, oh, that's, non-metallic sheath cable, more often than not, they'd say Romex. But if it's non-metallic sheath cable, they're getting a lot of points with me. I'd say, and then I might say something like, hey, if I ask you to put that non-metallic sheath cable in that junction box, could you do it? And, it kind of, if they said no, then I kind of knew what level is, but I kept it kind of, I'm a big believer in interviews to have props. Okay. It relaxes everybody involved, because I would lean over the table. I'll do my mic here, but I would lean over the table with them, and they're right across the table from me. And I'd say, okay, what's this? Do you know? And so that's kind of stuff that I would do, Jay. Not normal what everybody else might do, but that's kind of stuff I did. But would I hire somebody totally green? Sure. But I was always looking for somebody that had a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of something. Now, I will tell you, Jay, most of the people that I hired at a certain point in my company came from the vocational schools, right? Because I was big in the vocational schools in Virginia. I spoke at a lot of them. They knew me. I was Virginia's youngest licensed electrician. I won the National VICA contest. So in my area, I was well known. So all I had to do was call the vocational school, which is a great thing to tell people. When people say they can't get enough people, I tell them, reach out to your vocational school in your area. You'd be surprised at the people that are coming out of the school. They need work. And if it's in the summer, you've got great people that you can hire as summer help that are in the vocational program. Perfect. If you have a school, a high school or something that has a vocational school, reach out to them, because once they graduate, then boom. And a lot of these vocational schools have what's called work release in their senior year, and they go to work, and they can go to work for you, and you can get them early on. So get them as early as you can get them, is what I got to say. But I had a zero tolerance for goofing around on a job site. If I came, again, call me a prude, that's fine. But if you came on a job site and I saw wire nuts laying all over the place, or I saw staples all over the place, so there was poor job site management for my employees, I used to look, and call me an a-hole, I don't care. I wasn't a prick to them. But I would literally, and we joked around, and I cared about all of them. But if I looked around and I was able to add up money on that floor, I had a problem, because I don't pay you. In fact, there's a story that people heard from me about me firing a guy because it was a very high-end home, and I was going to get more work from this application, and the owners could come in at any time, and we were doing the trim out. And I went down there with sconces, and they were going down the steps, and he was hanging the sconces, and he literally fingerprints all over the place, the crooked and all this kind of stuff. And it's not how we would do it at the end. Okay. And I went down and looked at him and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "What?" I'm like, "Those are crooked and you got fingerprints everywhere." And he literally looked at me and said, "I can't see it from my house, Paul." And I don't know if he was joking or trying to joke, but that didn't work well for me. So he was the electrician, and he had a helper. And I ended up telling him, "Give your keys to the helper. You're done." He says, "What?" I said, "You're done." Because any guy, because I was traveling so much. I said, so any guy that can have that mentality, you can't see it from my house, is not a guy that I want to trust with while I'm out of town and I have somebody doing work for me that is going to put future food in my mouth. Nope. I said, "You're gone. See ya." Now, of course, I kept track of all employees, so that wasn't the first time. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and I had no problem doing that. I had no problem firing somebody, especially if it's going to affect me or my company. I care about their family. I care about them, but you have to care about what you do, and if you take no pride in it, gone. In fact, all the wiring that we used to do looked so pretty in the walls that it was a shame to cover it up with gypsum board. But you know it's going to happen. But again, we would take pictures and keep them for our records and things like that way back then. And now you can just snap them with your phone. But back then it was literally taking pictures with things like Polaroids or 35 millimeter cameras or whatnot. I don't want to date myself. But anyway, we would do this kind of doing things like that because they were proud of the work. It looked really good. And again, if you take that much pride in it, even though you know it's going to be covered up, I know that if I go to ask you to do something that's exposed or something that's going to be seen, that you're going to take that same level of pride in it. And that meant a lot to me, and it always did mean a lot to me. But I did spend a lot of time educating our helpers and our journeymen in order to learn. Some of them say it was one of the most interesting times they ever had was working, because it was always a learning environment. Always. And then every day we have a safety meeting, brief, because again, depending on the project size and what it was, very brief. And then every week, at the end of the week, we would have a code class, about an hour on a job site. And I would just walk around and look at stuff and just do a code class based on what we see. And I would tell them, I'd say, "Okay, tell me what the securing supporting requirement is for non-metallic sheath cable." And somebody would say, "Oh, it's every 4.5 feet. Absolutely. Okay. And just different things like that. So that's the best I can give you, Jay. But again, I did have a hiring process, but it was more a one-on-one. You know what I mean? I had to feel good with you, and that's why I had props, and that's why I used props. Let's see here. The owner, let me see where I'm at on some of these. What's up, Mike? Thanks for coming from Michigan. Let's see, Joel. The owner of an electrical contractor once told us, "If you saw a quarter on the floor, would you pick it up when we leave material on the floor?" Absolutely. Absolutely. So to me, every one of those wire nuts, every one of those staples means something to me. It meant money to me, right? And so I just, if you don't care about it and you say, "Well, it's not my money," yeah, it's not who I want to work for me. Even the company that I work for, I take real pride in being a good steward of their money. Whether it's me going to a training or going to a seminar or me offering, I'm a very good steward of their money. They work hard for it. Okay. And, it's a big, I work for a $1 billion company, $1.4 billion company. People that know me have codes and standards at Encore, as well as the Electrical Code Academy thing. I'm blessed that they allow me to do both. But the big thing is when we come out of the bathroom, it's automated, but there's also a switch. So I cut the switch off. Somebody comes in, they can cut it. Why burn the lighting when it's unnecessary? It's just that kind of thing where some people would say, "I don't care. It's not my company. They got to pay for it anyway. And, just not the way I do. Doesn't mean if you do it one way, that's up to you. But that's just the way I was. I'm a good steward of other people's money, and I'm a good steward of mine. But when I do the work and I expect to get paid, I expect to get paid. And I'm going to get paid for my work. Okay? Let's see. What do we got here? It's tough to be able to know everything going on when you're not around. Absolutely. I'm blessed to have a PM who is but he is a hard to everyone and nobody is exempt. Okay, so he's across the board, and that's awesome. Across the board, he is that way, and that is, again, it becomes predictable, right? It's expected. And you don't have to worry about anybody trying to play favors, anybody brown-nosing, anybody trying to get a leg up. I can't stand that anyway. Again, at the end of the day, I get more trouble in this industry because I speak my mind and I run my mouth and people don't like it and it makes them feel wrong. I've gotten many times I've been on code committees and a woman is saying something and nobody will say anything just because, and I'm not saying this just to women, I'm just saying they tend to not want to say anything because it'll look like they're bashing. And you know what? If it's wrong, I stand up and I go, that's not right. That's wrong. I don't care whether you're a woman or man, black, white, green, yellow. I don't care. If I don't agree, I'm going to tell you I don't agree. But I'm going to tell you why I don't agree, and I'm going to be fair about it, and I expect the same of you. And if I say something you don't agree with, tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. But don't just tell me I'm wrong. Explain to me why I'm wrong, because I deserve the respect to learn from you. Same as I take a lot of pride in teaching folks, okay? But if you believe it's wrong and you can teach me something, I want to learn, because this life gets pretty damn boring if I'm not learning something. And I want to learn. I'm always trying to learn something. So if I teach you something, you're going to teach somebody else something. That person's going to teach it to somebody else. We're going to create this big circle of learning, and everybody's going to benefit from it. And eventually, it's going to get back to me, and I'm going to learn something. That's what it is to me, is the beautiful thing about this trade, is learning something. There is no greater trade. I don't care who you are. There ain't no greater trade than being an electrician. I love it. Sometimes it's tough work. Sometimes great work. I put in my time. Okay. And people say, well, Paul, you just sit behind a desk now. No, I just told you. In fact, look at the crap on my hat. I did some work today. Put in some ceiling fans, cut some in, fished wire up, okay, for a project. I felt like doing some work today. So I had some work. I wanted some work. I went and did some work. Okay. And, come home, got to do a radio show, have some grading I got to do. I've got stuff I got to do for my full-time job as well. Both of them pretty much take full time. I'll go to sleep tonight, maybe 1, and I'll be up in the morning ready to go again. I just love it. I love this industry. Everything about it. I've told people one of the most proudest times ever for me was when I got my journeyman's license. It was amazing because I was 2 years younger than it was allowed in the state, and I had to get special permission. And my dad even had to step in involved because they didn't want to do it. And then when I came back and got my master's, they didn't want to do it either because I was too young. And I was like, no, the age restriction was on the journeyman. There was no age restriction on the master. You just had to be a journeyman for a year. So again, had to argue that out. Okay. So again, it's an early start, over 30 years plus in this industry, and I love every minute of it. I love teaching others. I love hearing about your success stories. I love it when when your businesses are going booming, or you want to branch out on your own, or even if you're just, you're a project manager or you're a head electrician. I love it. Just love it. Every bit of it. Let's see. Yeah. Sometimes we start. Now, for me, when I started in this industry, I knew I loved it from the get-go. I'm going to tell you how it started for me. My brother got some tools for Christmas. And I was younger, and he got these tools because he started at the vocational school. And mom and dad, or Santa, gave him a big tool, electrical tools. You would have think that he just went, he went crazy. It's like he was loving it. I was like, what? And then I went to the first open house of the vocational school. I was in 10th grade. And I went to the open house and I got to meet his instructor. And he's a legendary instructor in the state of Virginia. Bob Barrett passed away probably 10 years ago now, maybe or less. And I met him. And I mean, I just got enamored with this guy. Previous military, sweetheart of a guy, but God, he knew electrical. And he was heavy into theory, heavy into all that stuff. And so, again, I told my parents, I said, I want to be in the program. And they said, well, you still have to take your English and your American, history. And those are prerequisites. Oh, and the math. And so I said, I don't care. I want to do it. So they set it up, and I went early before school even started to take an early morning class at my normal school so that I could clear up that prerequisite or that requirement so that I could spend the day at the vocational school. So that allowed me to get there. Now, that was in my junior year. Now, the senior year, the school confronted me, the school itself. And because of my GPA and the school and everything I did for the school, helping fix everything in the school and started winning all these competitions, these wiring competitions, they asked if I was interested in being the student teacher. And it had never been a student teacher that was actually a student. It was a student teacher, means it usually come in from a university or something like that. And they asked me if I'd be willing to do it. And I said, okay. Basically, in my senior year, I spent all day at the vocational school with my mentor. And I got to teach the juniors that were under us, the ones that were in 11th grade, and I was in 12th. And then when the 12th graders came in, because I was in 12th grade, I was teaching my own class as a student teacher. I was getting credit for it. I was getting the electives I needed to graduate, okay? And I was getting, all I had to do was go to early morning class, and I had to take a summer school class, which is interesting enough. People say, well, how can you get credit for a summer school class? I got credit because you were there in summer school every day for like 8 freaking hours. So over the long haul of the summer, it probably was about as much as you'd actually put in a school year. That's how you do it. And I was able to get credit. And they worked it out, and it was amazing how my mentor could call the school, because this vocational school was connected to all the high schools. This is where they'd send their students. And he made some calls. He made some things happen. And the school offered me this. And the next thing you know, I said yes. And I literally spent for 2 years every day at vocational school reading books. And we had the stalls where you do wiring. We had the cable trays. We had the motors. Our school had everything. And I got to do it. It was like it's like Disney for an electrician. And I got to do everything. And, we had a tool room. I got the key to the tool room. I will say, since I did I was the one who did the grading of all the coursework. A couple of my friends that were also in there that I think only took it because I was the student teacher, they graduated thanks to me. You're welcome. Because, again, when their work wasn't as good, I would tutor them and explain electrical circuitry and everything like that, or help them or whatever. Anyway, I love it. I thank my brother for it. My father really wasn't an electrician. He wasn't into that. He was a car salesman. Very strong, though. He's the one that helped the state have to let me take the tests. But at the end of the day, I had so many people that helped me along the way back when I was doing my work and learning in a vocational. And that's where I got all my hours. And then when I got out of school, I ended up teaching for the apprenticeship program for the school. So that was the night school. And so that's where I got all my teaching experience. Then I moved to Harrisonburg, Virginia, and I taught at that vocational school. So that's where I started my love for teaching and that type of thing. Another interesting story, when I was in 10th grade, in that summer school, I was taking code classes at night where all my friends were out partying. I was taking code classes. A guy named Billy Gilbert was the instructor. He was an inspector for the county in Albemarle County, and he taught code classes. And I used to attend every one of those. I still have the certificate for when I went to that. And that's where I found my love of the National Electrical Code. That's where I got it. And, so I used to think of my brother as the MacGyver, but I was the code guy. And I would tell him, don't do that. Don't do that. He's an amazing electrician too. Let's see here. What else do we got? I got hired through a friend and it was always good working with my hands. And I had wanted to be a welder. Okay. But I gave it a shot and loved it and just constantly kept learning in this trade. And it is an amazing trade. I tell you, welders are pretty cool too. It's always interesting. I'd love to learn to weld. I don't know what I'd weld, but there's an app. I don't know if you folks get it. It's a very neat app. I don't know if you have it. I'll tell you what it is, and I'm going to promote it because I think it's just a really cool app, and it's called Search Hound. Okay, and it's basically, and I don't know if I can get a picture of it. Let's see if I can get it. So basically, it's this little app. It's called Search Hound, and you go download it, and there's just contractors all over the country, right? All over the country. Demetrio is not going to give up. Okay? He's not going to give up. So, again, all over the country, people post pictures. And they're electrical and everything. But let me tell you what. There's this couple guys in here that actually post welding. And their welding work. Yes, called Trade Hounds. And Trade Hounds with an S. And it's in your app store. Go look it up in your app store. Just type in Trade Hounds. And join it. It's an awesome, and you can stay in contact with people. But there's this guy that does welding. Now be careful because people post. I always tell people, don't post pictures when you know there's blatant code violations in it. You know what I'm saying? Because it might look pretty, but if it's riddled with code violations, it's just going to make you look foolish. But at any rate, there's this welding. Now I'm going to show you this welder. You can't see it, but this guy does welding. And anyway, it looks literally like you're laying coins. It's just, the guy does the most amazing welding work I have ever seen. And I don't know anything about welding. And I don't know how to weld. But he does amazing welding work. And I see that on the Trade Hounds. It's pretty neat. So get it. It's a free app. Pretty cool. They'll send you stickers too. I've never gotten my stickers yet from them, but they'll say they'll send you stickers. Okay, but you can get our stickers, and you heard how to get them earlier. Okay, and I don't know that message to you, Demetrio from Streamlabs. I have no idea. I guess they're thinking that code section you sent is actually spamming signals. I guess I'm not sure what that is. Why they did that. Okay. And if you're talking about 314.28a1 and 2, it sounds like to me that you're talking about a pull and angles for 314.28. And I said I wasn't going to talk code tonight, but you are very persistent with your discussions here. So the 28, now the reason I am not going to go over that with you, Demetrio, is because I do a video on that. And it's available on our YouTube channel. I would just be regurgitating that information again. So, Ben, straight pulls 8 times the trade size. Okay. So, yeah, no, it's hard for me, Jay, not to go into code, right? So then angle pulls are 6 times. So again, I've already done a video on that, so I encourage you to go watch that video where I talk about straight pulls and angle pulls and all that type of stuff. Again, and it's very hard to do here because I don't have any boxes with raceways coming into it to be able to do that to you. So again, not a good thing to go into here. I don't have any graphics queued up for that. So anyway, what does Michael say? Started as a welding technician years ago. That got me into robotic welding. I don't know what that FANUC. I'm not sure what that is. Once I learned how inputs controlled outputs in the logic world, it kickstarted my career into an actual electrician. There you go. A lot of people get into that, PLCs, programmable systems, all those type of things. And again, some people, that's all they want to do. That's literally all they want to get involved in, right? And so that's the kind of systems that they work on. All right. So me, I was never big into that automation stuff or programmable logic. Just, I guess at the time it was more rudimentary than it is today. It's much more sophisticated in the systems and programming and all that kind of stuff. I never really got much into that. So I was more into the normal type of motor controls, motor starters, push, stop, start stations, solenoids, relays. I got into all that kind of stuff. And in our training facility, that stuff was everywhere, man. We had motors and relays and starters and everything, and we could play with it. Anything we wanted to do, we could grab it and do it. And that was the beautiful thing about the vocational school. And I learned so much in my vocational school. Interesting, apprenticeship programs you do a couple of times a week. Well, and it's usually for a couple hours. I was literally for 2 whole years immersed in it. And that's why I'm so big on the youth today giving vocational schools an opportunity. Not everybody needs to go to college. Now, I went after I got out of school. That was more probably for my family than for me. But when I got out, and of course, I also didn't want them to have to pay for it because I saw what happened when they put one of my brothers through school, and it literally drained them. And I was not going to be that same kind of burden on my family. Just wasn't going to do it. So until I got on my own feet and I could afford to do something, I did it on my own. Okay. That was always my mentality. I moved out of the house at 18 years old, and by the time I was 20, I was married. So, and so that type of scenario, but I'm not sure how I segued into that. But I'm big on vocational schools, giving the kids an opportunity. I love speaking to youth about the opportunities in this trade, because when I do it on stage, I start getting animated and really excited because I get really excited. I have been blessed. The cuts that are on these hands are from the most wonderful trade in the world. And we are the givers of light. We make things run. Anybody can wire stuff up, but we make it run and we make it safe. And that's why it's so important to me. And I love it. I love it. But I'm thinking about buying a welder. I don't know what I'm going to weld, though. It seems like it'd be a waste of money for me because I got nothing to weld. But it just seems like that's such a awesome. Anyway, I've taken up a lot of you folks' time. I don't know if how the stream did, or whether there's a lag. I don't know. But it is what it is. Sorry for the late start tonight. Sorry that I had something turned off and I forgot that I did that. My mistake. Won't happen again. I promise. Promise. Michael, it says, I started really backwards. I learned controls and automation before anything else. Excellent. And then learned how to pipe and build commercial electrical systems. Excellent. Some of the biggest lessons I ever learned, believe it or not, was when I was coming out of school and we got a job and we had to do a lot of rigid trade size 4 above our heads and racking it up. And again, you don't get to realize how heavy that stuff is at the end of the day when you've been holding it up over your head or trying to hold it up and lifting it up and putting it up on a lift system, scissor lifts or whatever, all day long. It wears you out. It definitely wears you out. That's why I love using aluminum raceways. I love using PVC where I can. I love EMT. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, in Florida, 4-inch, that trade size 4 rigid, man, and it will put, and that's the most common of the large feeder type when you're going to use rigid. It will literally tear you up the arms. And then there was a whole day where I did nothing but threaded conduit. All day long, I was the guy that would thread conduit. So I got so used to threading conduit, and it just was like, just a lot of work. Yes, it does make for a slow day. Yep. And it's just slow. And you only get a couple up and down. And you know what? you have to put in the support system most of the time first. And so that takes you forever. And that's another reason why people ask me why I liked residential so much. Because I've done commercial and residential and industrial. Why do I like residential? Not because I think it's easier, because some people that do commercial will say it's easier, but I'm going to tell you to slow your roll, right? The reason I'm telling you is because a lot of times there's a bunch of people on the project and everybody has their little task, right? And when I actually do it and I did the residential, I did big residentials, big. And so you constantly had to think about your circuit routing and things like that and how I did stuff. And it always kept you thinking. Whereas commercial, it was always just follow the drawings, follow the drawings, follow the drawings. Now we're going to pull feeders. Now we're going to pull brand circuits. It's just, it's fine, but they last so long. And you all know that I have ADD, attention deficit disorder, big time, right? I mean, it's obvious. So I like the finality of the residential projects. I could get into a 2,500 or even a 3,000 square foot residential. It's small, but I can get in and out of there in 2 days, 2.5 days, and really make it look tight for the rough end. And then I'm gone on to the next one. Or I can get one of those ones like we get those 12,000 square foot homes, and I'm on the job for probably anywhere from 8 to 12 days. Depends on what all we're doing in it. Whether or not we're also doing any automation, whether or not we're doing any audible systems, surround sounds, whether or not we're doing, and I used to do a lot of the surround sound Legrand system with the A-bus, so that you basically could plug an iPad or an iPod back then into the input, and you could pump it through the whole house. Okay, so each system was self-powered. Okay, and it amplified. And so, I mean, I was into doing all that stuff. So depending on what I sold you on, then I could be there for a certain number of days. But again, there was nothing so long that I got totally tired of it. You know what I'm saying? I was ready but commercial jobs that sometimes can last 4, 5, 6, 7 months, 8 months or not. I had those jobs and I hated it. Hated it with a passion. Okay. What else do we got here? Hey, Ella. Yeah, the audio came back. I forgot to turn something on. It's my fault. Yes, my fault. Let's see, Jay. I came from the commercial world, and then I did my first basement. I ran every circuit in 12. Good for you. I also pigtailed every box, even if it was just an in and out. So nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Some people don't like to use it. You have less chance of things going wrong with the device if you do that. And if you have a bad device, the circuit still stays running. And so the other receptacles keep working. So that receptacle goes bad. You just replace that receptacle. Ain't nothing wrong. There ain't no shame in that game. Again, it's a little more work. Okay. So then people ask me all the time, Paul, would you today wire the houses in 14 gauge for bedrooms and living rooms and all that? And I look at them and go, abso-freaking-lutely. And I do this addition I'm going to do. I'm doing it in 14 gauge. Okay. If I protect it by a 15 amp overcurrent protected device and I'm limiting the load on that circuit and it's a 14 gauge copper, safe to me. Just because it's 20, do you mean I can put more things on it? Well, maybe. But again, it's all about the use. They're receptacles. They're not going to get that much use. So some people say I will only wire things in 12. Well, you go for it. Not me. I use 14 gauge for my brand circuits, for my dwelling units, the bedrooms and all common lighting and all that. Fine. Some people say, no, I'm going to do everything in 12. Well, you go for it. Now, I'm a wire and cable manufacturer. I work for one. Heck, man, why stop at 12? Jump to 10. The more you buy, the more I make. I'm going to get a bonus. Okay? But I follow the code and I use what sizes I want. Now, obviously, kitchen, 2 small appliance brand circuits, 12 gauge. Bathrooms to serve the countertops in the bathrooms, receptacle requirement. Yes, I'm going to use 12. Okay. Well, where I can use 14, I'm most certainly going to use 14. But I get your point. When people start out, they tend to think, oh, I'm going to do everything 12. It makes for a better installation. It's not a better installation. Okay. It's just higher amperage. You maybe could put more devices on it. It's fine. Or maybe I'm going to put less branch circuits if I make all of them 12 than I would if I did it in 14. That's a design choice, not a code choice. You get to make that decision, however you want to do it. But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I ever always did the pigtail. I will say that, Jay. You know? Oh, I know why, too, because you came from commercial. I get it. You thought typically everything in commercial is 12 gauge. So you're sitting there going, as far as the lighting and receptor, you're like, it's all 12 gauge. It's all spec'd out 12 gauge. So you're like, I didn't even know that a 14 gauge existed. I could see that. Makes perfect sense. And then when you saw that they had 14, did you switch to 14 for your typical, normal, everyday branch circuits? Yeah. So again, it's all in design and how you want to run it. I have had some homeowners in the past that have said, I'd like, they've done their research or whatnot, and they go, oh, I want all the circuits done in 12 gauge. Okay. That's what you want, and that's what you're going to pay for because it costs more. Yep. And I'll do whatever you want me to do. As long as you're willing to pay this, I'll do it. Hey, as people say, and hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I can be your whore for $1. If you want me to if you want me to change the layout of my recess cans and you want me to change the whole layout and put another one in or put 2 more in, I'm your guy. Just change order. I'm getting paid. Now, I know people that won't do that. When somebody asks them to fix something or update something or whatever, they're like, oh, I'll just absorb that. I didn't. I kept it professional. So here's the problem. If you do that up front, they're not meaning to, but their natural instinct is to get a bargain, and they could end up taking advantage of your generosity. I can be very courteous. I can be very helpful. I can be very willing, but I'm getting paid. So if I've got to add more stuff, and I did it based on an agreement, and you making me change it, I'm getting paid. Yeah, it might not be a whole lot, but I'm going to get paid. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm in business to make money. Now, they could get upset or whatever, then we can discuss it, but then maybe you have to eat one or two. Like, okay, look, this time I'm going to eat it. But I can tell you what, it'll make them think twice about doing another change on you in the middle of your project, okay? Now, I've had projects where they've changed things like moved doors around or whatever, even after I'm done and I walk away, and they call me back and say, hey, can you come back? I need you to move some stuff. And I'm like, didn't I just finish that house? Or didn't I just finish running that? And they go, yeah, but I need you to change it and move it. No problem. You're going to pay me. I'm going to be reasonable, but you're still going to pay me because I did it. I get paid to do something once. That's why I tell people all the time about learning the code. People say, oh, you got to do it. This code is just, I say, look, the code is a minimum standard. The code makes sure that you do it compliant, that you don't have issues with inspectors, that you don't have issues with something burning down and you getting sued over it, because they're going to sue you. They're going to throw everything at everybody. But if you show that you installed it in accordance with the National Electrical Code, which is the minimum safety standard, then that's all you can go with. And how can they sue you when you did your job? You start to worry when you don't do it to a minimum safety standard. That's when you need to worry. And I'd lose sleep at night by not doing something. Now, I know people say, well, I got to do this, I got to do that. Maybe I'm here and nobody's looking and I'll do that. It's what you do when nobody's looking. That's what defines you, right? That's what defines you. Let's see. Jay says Resi has more code requirements to follow. Absolutely. 210.52 has a massive amount of code stuff that has to do very much residential driven. And of course, residential, commercial, raceway fill, strapping and supporting, A lot of this gets done by the engineer or the designer, unless you're doing an as-built and you're doing it differently, and you got to know how to do all that stuff. But all this stuff gets told where this goes, where that goes, where this goes, where that goes. In residential, you have to think about it, and you have to lay it out. So again, for those that do just commercial and don't have any idea about residential, it's a great thing to diversify into, doing some small residential, okay? Get a division in that. If you like commercial, I don't do any commercial at all anymore. Not because I don't like commercial, but because you have to understand how the sales tax works in the state of Texas. We don't have to charge sales tax on residential if we give a flat rate price. We don't do per hour. It's flat rate. Now, it might be based on the per hour, but we give a flat rate price. Then it's in there, and I don't have to pay sales tax on it. If it's a commercial project, then you got to get a sales tax license and charge sales tax on it and all this kind of stuff. I ain't interested in all that. I don't do enough. So I had to learn the laws, and you will too, in how you do it. What's the promo code for Patreon's discount? It's over there. I'm not giving it to you here, Jay. It's over in Patreon. Okay. And it's a promo code for use on Electrician Pride. That's for stickers and shirts and all this other stuff, phone cases and mugs and all that kind of stuff. And that should be over in your Patreon account. I'm not going to give you it here. Okay? Come on, Jay. All right. Well, if I have nobody else, again, we went quite a while tonight, over 2 hours. No, it's okay. You didn't make it public. If you're over in the Patreon and you support us on Patreon, you get, not only do you get exclusive content, which right now I believe we're at, I can't remember, I just uploaded 2 videos today, which is why this screwed up my thing, is we're in 210, Article 210 now. And so I uploaded that information this morning, 2 videos for that. And of course, I'll have 2 more videos next weekend. But we're working our way through. So we already covered 90, Article 90. We covered 100. We covered 110. We covered 200. And now we're starting into 210. And we're going to work our way through it methodically. And you get to ask questions and post things over there. We're not sharing those videos on YouTube. All of my 2020 stuff is over on Patreon. You can subscribe to as little as $5 a month, or you can be in a VIP and do it for $20. You're basically supporting our program. You get a bigger discount in our Electrician Pride, and you get the free newsletter. Well, it's not free. It costs people. It's like $150 annual subscription of the code changes, but you get that included as a VIP. So it basically pays for itself. It's kind of a wash, or close. Well, kind of. But anyway, we're also going to be adding other things to the VIP. And of course, VIPs are going to be a part of that. And we're going to have, once we get to a certain threshold, I'm going to have webinars that are only for the Patreon people. Okay. So it'll be more one-on-one where you can ask specific questions, that type of thing. Anyway, so hopefully y'all enjoyed the episode tonight and got something out of it. This is going to be a long episode for anybody to actually rewatch this again. So I might have to download it and edit it, because I don't know that anybody's going to rewatch 2 hours of it. But maybe not. Who knows? Okay. So anyway, let's see what I got here. Yep. So use 14 gauge for the bedrooms and the lighting. Absolutely. That's what I do. I do not, it's bad enough, and you guys know this that have been doing this. It's bad enough when you have to cut in a kitchen with the 12 gauge. Imagine doing it all day, cutting in everything that's 12 gauge. Nah, pass. Is it okay? Sure. Can you do it? Yep. Am I going to do it? Nope. Of course, I don't do as much as y'all do anymore today, so I'm not going to, I have carpal tunnel. I'll use that as my excuse. Anyway, that's going to be it tonight, guys. Hopefully y'all got something out of this. Sorry that we did not have our code class this past week. I haven't forgotten about you. I had an issue come up with my family and I had to take care of. And I had to take care of that, and I was not able to actually do the class. So this week coming up, I'll have a class, and we'll pick up where we were. We'll actually go look at some of those competency reviews. We will do that, I promise. And we will look at that, and we'll solve some good stuff and everything. So I appreciate all of you coming and joining me. Again, you need anything from me, you need something answered or whatnot, please feel free. I will do my best to catch up. I do get hundreds of emails, and I try my best to answer them all. But I will say there are certain names that I try to answer quicker than others just because I know the people, and I'm trying my best to get to everybody. So again, thank y'all for taking the time. God bless. Hopefully all of you are staying safe. I'm so blessed to be able to do this, and my family. I'm so thankful that the company that I work for allows me to have this academy. As well as be able to, because it gives me the freedom to create the free content. Okay? That's really, I have to be very thankful to the companies that I work for because they give me the ability to do this. And obviously thank my wife for the patience that she has with me. And again, she's been by my side through all the books that I've written and we published and everything that in these videos and the new stuff that we have coming with the guests and speakers and all this kind of stuff. Do me a favor. On your job sites, share our Electrician Live with people. Let them know about it. It's a podcast. The videos tend to run longer than the podcasts, right? As evident tonight. But again, share the podcast, share it with people, let them know what we're doing. The format's going to change a little bit once I get that system in place and the new system and everything's all squared away. A little bit of a format change because I need to stick to a time frame rather than how I'm doing now, going 2 hours. It will be 1 hour shows and I have to stick with them. Okay. So I might do a show and then end the show. And maybe if there's other things to talk about, I'll come back, but I have to end the show. It's just a different format that we're going to do. But anyway, share it. If you want those stickers, let me know. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Let's get back to work, but let's do it safely. And again, teach somebody. Be willing to open up. Be able to accept failure. Be able to help other people succeed. Be gracious of your time. Be thankful of what you've got. Be thankful of your family. Be thankful that we're here today. And again, so much to be thankful for. Most of all, be thankful you're an electrician or you're going to school to be an electrician because you know what? There ain't no better trade out there. Electricians rock. Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless. You've been listening to Electrician Live with your host, Paul Abernathy.